South Africa doing what South Africa has done this World Cup, starting slow and then going all guns blazing. 382 is what they've managed in 50 overs. This is the 7th time that they've got 300 plus runs on the card. Well, there is Quinton de Kock, who, like the fans said, it was Quinton de Kock because he almost got a double ton but wasn't meant to be. He got out on 174. Klaasen got that 90, almost getting another century but wasn't meant to be. Markram got that 60. Well, welcome back to Cricbuzz Live. I'm Saiyami Kher and I have Joy Bhattacharjya, and more importantly, someone who knows how to make comebacks so well, Mr. Harsha Bhogle, who's come back with a win in the prediction game.
Well, in all fairness, you were 2 runs away. If you had connected off that last ball, you would have got it right. But 376. When we did the first com box, we were thinking, ye kahan fuzul kuch bol gaya yaar, 376. But South Africa have this extraordinary ability to turn it on. So if you look at the innings progression, it's beautiful to see how today they didn't even conserve wickets. But normally they'll conserve wickets, they'll slowly up it. So at a time when they have the fewest fielders outside is when it seems the easiest to bowl to them. But this used to be, if you remember, the old template of how you played 50 overs cricket, where you kept wickets and exploded at the end, and they've just taken it to a different level, this exploding at the end.
But Joyda, we see here the power play, this graphic is a really correct...
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 13.7, 14.3, 14.4 against Sri Lanka, England and Bangladesh. Even against Australia, 7.9, which is decent. But I mean, other than that Netherlands blemish, just see the number of runs they've scored in that final power play. They've been explosive out there. And of course, yeah, against Sri Lanka, before that also 243 in the middle 20, in the middle 30 is also a serious effort. So, I mean, this is a batting machine. And each and every one of their batsmen are coming to the party. And I mean, that's what you're looking at. Everyone's doing their job. I mean, 33 for 2, Markram held it at one end, but Quinton de Kock went totally mad in the other end. Then he goes out, Klaasen comes in, Klaasen turns on this team. And that's what it is, one after the other. Then, even after that, I mean, Miller comes in and scores 34 of 15. And so we're talking about, you know, an array of batsmen who just, all of them starting immediately. Except for the space where they had to consolidate in the beginning, each and every batsman came and almost immediately hit form.
But Harsha, we spoke about this in the com box. They were 36 for 2, and we spoke about how we asked Bangladesh to get those early wickets in the power play. They did that, but then we didn't ask them to carry on getting those wickets, so they didn't.
No, I'm just trying to see. They had 19 sixes.
Wow.
Right, 19 sixes is 114 runs and 25 boundaries. That's another 100 runs. So they've made 214 runs in 44 balls. Now you see, just walk around and see how easy it is to get 380. 19 sixes, they just become a 6-hitting machine, South Africa have, primarily through Klaasen and Miller at the end. But if you remember, we saw those numbers. One of those was Markram. Today it was Quinton de Kock. They've just become 6-hitting machines. So in effect, what we were talking about 20 overs cricket is what they've extended to 50 overs cricket. Keep wickets in hand and effectively play a T20 game, or the last 30 overs, play a T30 game.
All right, Joyda, let's do this one by one now because there's so much to talk about when they make so many runs. So to start off with, if we can do, of course, Quinton de Kock, because he's a Bombay boy, if I can say. He came back to a pitch he loves playing at. The pitch not usually playing the usual Wankhede standards, but he came, set himself in, paced his innings very well.
Absolutely. I mean, if you see the start of that innings, it's now 174, 140. He was batting at about 75 to 80. And especially when those wickets went in, he was still there, he was conservative. He's picking the ball to hit, but he was not unnecessarily going for any risk. Again, he has certain standard shots whenever he's in trouble. He's got a pickup shot that works really well towards square leg. He was driving well. And I think that's the important thing, that once Klaasen came in, with Markram, he was more of the aggressor. Once Klaasen came in, he settled back, he was taking his chances, but Klaasen was doing most of the aggression. So the beauty of the innings is how well he paced it. And I felt he found he looked very tired in the middle, Harsha, suddenly, and then suddenly he seemed to get a second win.
I mean, his 100 was run a ball. His 100 was run a ball, so he made 74 of the last 40. When he's batted in the Mumbai Heat, already he's batted 100 balls in the Mumbai Heat, and then he finishes 74 of 40. And he was, I mean, his go-to 6 is over mid-wicket square leg, but he hit a lot straight down the ground, and then Klaasen came. I mean, he's just playing on a different level at the moment.
But just a little more on Quinton de Kock, because, he has gone and made a statement about not coming back. He's announced his retirement. He's not had World Cup centuries before this World Cup and now comes in and gets a hat-trick of centuries one after the other. So it just shows the amount of grit and focus he has this World Cup to just go and play big knocks.
And each of those three has come in this particular World Cup. So he gets one more. It'll be a record for the maximum hundreds in a World Cup by a South African. The reason I think he's done this is I don't think he wants to look beyond to 2027. I don't know how many of us are looking beyond to a 50-over World Cup in 2027, to be honest, but that's a completely separate debate in itself. And when you come off the high of a World Cup, the bilateral ODI just ceases to have immediate relevance. So he's probably saying, I'll have a great World Cup and then I'll go and pick up the checks around the world.
But Joyita, just a little more on this innings in particular, because we've seen two other hundreds, but this one was the most special of the three because like we spoke about him pacing the innings, it was just he went into like sixth gear towards the after his 120 runs.
So I think that's what he did really well. I think getting once you are there, and de Kock traditionally has had a bit of a problem like this. He hasn't hit too many big centuries. His centuries have tended to be 100, 105, 110. And here again, it looked like he played one loose shot, looked like he was going to get out. It looked like he was disinterested for a bit and then sort of got his head screwed on together. So I think it's important for them because I think he has figured out that second wind. And this is a big 100. And de Kock, this big 100, really, it's a 100 that puts its stamp. And I think that de Kock staying around would have made at least another 20, 25, 30 runs difference. I think he has added another 30 runs to their effort.
Harsha, we'll get to the class of Klaasen because we've just seen what he's done. He's left us completely lost for words. But we spoke about Markram in the pre-match show and how he was, well, the anchor to the South African middle order, and he did exactly that because they had to steady the ship. We spoke about in the com box, and he did that very sensibly. 60 of 69 is what he's managed. So very important innings today by Markram.
36 for 2 when he came into bat. They can't afford to lose a third wicket there. So 36 for 2, they put on 131 in about 23 overs. And they've set it up at the 30-over mark, the 167, just to put in perspective the finish that came. So he's shown an extraordinary ability to bat according to the situation. Today, the situation required an innings builder, a cautious approach, don't lose a wicket. The other day, when he got 148 balls, he was batting in a different situation. So they needed that kind of player today. And it was an invaluable innings. It was because he played that innings that Klaasen and Miller at the end had the room to be able to explode the way they did.
But Joyita, we spoke about how he wasn't looking like the Markram we know against spin. There was a little bit of trouble that the spinners gave Markram, but he again managed to just stay through that phase and go past it.
Yeah, absolutely. If you look at all the South African batsmen, most of them have hit a lot of sixes. Markram has hit 7 fours. And the one ball that he seriously went in the air, he went and got caught on long off. So somewhere, what is important about his innings was he was not the Markram that you normally see him to be. And yet he played a very invaluable role out there because had they been 60 for 3 or 70 for 3, Klaasen would have also had to play very differently.
Yes.
So he didn't take those chances. He made sure he was around. Quinton de Kock did most of the attacking there. And by the time he was out, the platform was already set. That 130-run partnership was very important. At 36 for 2, that 131 partnership, that's what set it. And after that, of course, the next two went totally berserk.
And don't forget too that the bowlers start to wilt after about 35 overs in these conditions. You saw that with England. Bangladesh probably better suited to the conditions, but the bowlers start to tire. It's a perfect platform. I mean, we just said 30 overs, 167, and they finished, 382. So they've made about 215 in the last 20-odd overs, which is unbelievable.
Yeah.
They've just become a hitting machine, South Africa. How do you stop South Africa? That is something that the rest of the teams are thinking. How do we stop South Africa? Don't be surprised if the India-South Africa game is played on a slowish turner where the ball doesn't come on too much. I think that seems to me to be the only way to get South Africa. Otherwise, bowl the new ball very incisively and get 2 or 3 wickets up front.
But like we spoke about how it was set up beautifully for the other two to go crazy, and Miller and Klaasen did just that. I was not expecting Klaasen to go and get 100, close to 100 again, but he just completely went into 6th gear.
No, absolutely. But he started fast as well. I mean, he started almost as if Quinton de Kock is getting tired, I need to start. And I think what he's got this great ability is to stay very still And because he has the strength and his hands are low, he can elevate. So all his sixes, and he's hit 8 of them, 7 of his 8 sixes are in that arc out there. But mostly right just on top of the bowler, right going to a deep mid wicket. That arc, he's hit all his sixes, and he's impossible to hit because he hits that shot so late. Okay, he hits it so late. He knows exactly with so much stillness that it's a very difficult shot to defend against. And therefore, any ball that's even slightly, he feels that the length is not there. It's slightly short of length. He can just rock back and whack it over your head.
And don't forget, it's a great six-hitting ground and not the biggest ground. It didn't matter. Some of those sixes today didn't matter how big the ground was. But it's interesting. If you have a 65, 66 meter boundary, then you back yourself to hit and then you hit an 80 meter six. With an 80 meter boundary, you're probably not challenging yourself as much. There are pockets at the Brabant, for example, which are 80, 82, 83 meters long. I'd love modern cricket to be played with 80 meter boundaries and then see how it goes. But today is just a day to celebrate just brilliant batting again. He had 4 balls left actually.
Yes.
He might have got to 100. But I don't think he was worried about the 100.
He was not worried about the 100, but DK has spoken about what you've spoken about, Joyda, is that he is very still, and today we saw that in a few sixes. He goes back into the crease and then kind of just whacks it over, which Hardik does a lot. But DK has spoken about it as well, just reading length, which he's so good with.
Which all the great batters do. He's a batter in tremendous form. When you say someone is in form, it means they're just seeing the ball well. Everything else is an outcome of how you're seeing the ball. And he is in the form of his life, Klaasen. I've seen him bat only a couple of times like this. There was an India-South Africa game where he went after Chahal. And it was a dewy day, the ball was wet, but he was hitting it clean. That was the first time you looked at Klaasen and said, oops, hang on, this is what this fellow is capable of. Now he's added consistency to it. And he is, I mean, as I said, we celebrate Sky in India. This is power hitting to another level.
Yeah, the other thing I was thinking about is his previous match when he got a century, he hit 12 fours and 4 sixes. And he must have seen how the sixes went off his bat and said, okay, how much effort do I put? Yeah. So today he's hit 8 sixes and 2 fours. So he probably decided it's not worth hitting fours. And all the sixes are here.
Yes.
All the sixes are here. He's hit a 4 here, he's hit 1 more 4 there, but all the sixes are in this arc. And I think it tells you that playing that second match on a ground, and I was just thinking about it, that is the one advantage India will not have, that playing a second match on a ground where you know what the...
India play 9 at all different venues.
Exactly.
I think England play at 8 different venues, India play at 9 different venues. You don't get that. But what does Miller do when he comes in? Miller, it's 4 sixes and 1 4.
Yes.
It's almost as if to say 4 is yesterday's shot. You know, it's passé.
It's 20th century.
It's the 20th century passé. I mean, I can't hit a 6. Okay, chalo, I'll get by with a 4.
But we chatted about how Miller's hands were itching, right? We could see him there just wanting to go out because such a David Miller kind of a setup for him.
And perfectly set up for him, as you said. Perfectly set up, tiring bowlers, ball coming on beautifully. And all in his hitting arc. Wasn't it Miller who said, if it's in the arc, it's out of the pork?
Yes, yes. But we've spoken about individual knocks, be it a Quinton, be it a Klaasen, Markram. But what South Africa has managed is to really stitch beautiful partnerships at very crucial times. So I feel, yes, there are individual knocks, but it's just important partnerships that came in at important times.
No, I'd love to see all the partnerships because after 36 for 2, I think all the partnerships are substantial. There's 131 of 137. And remember, we said that Markram is going at a run a ball, but de Kock, that means going much faster almost. 142 of 87, which is really fast. But then look at the next one. If you thought 142 of 87 was 65 of 25, it's more than, they're going at more than 200.
But I think Saiyami's point is well made. That 142 of 87 and 65 of 25 owe their success to the 131 or 137. I mean, no team would mind a run a ball virtual partnership of 130 as a consolidation partnership. I mean, they're looking at this game through different eyes and they're saying to themselves, we've got every single batter in form. We'll just lay the base and set it up for the finish. They're playing cricket. They're playing a beautiful brand of cricket.
When you have so many runs that a team puts up, what does the bowling coach say? What can you do? Because we spoke about how they started off well. Yes, they got 2 wickets in the power play. And then it just went completely downhill for Bangladesh from there because initial we could see little movement, we could see the ball swinging around. But when you look at this bowling card, it's a very sad bowling card.
There's one important thing out there. Nobody finished his quota.
Yeah.
And that's usually a sign that there's nobody that Shakib could look at and throw the ball to and say that totally, you will at least hold up one end. Everyone started going. And I think, as I said, you look at Shariful, he started really well. but he ends up at 76 for 1. And the only bowler who I thought, bowled really well and managed to keep his form was Mehdi Hasan Miraj. But remember, he did most of his overs.
He bowled 7 overs up front. He bowled 7 up front.
He bowled on the trot up front when the main carnage was not there. He came back for a couple where he also got hit. But that's the point, that anyone who bowled in that 32nd, 33rd to about 50th over, they got slaughtered.
But Harsha, in the combox, the 35th combox, it almost felt like, okay, this is not so bad. But 34th over onwards, it was just like another team came out to bowl or another team came out to bat, because we couldn't understand what happened.
And the strength of a bowling side is judged by how they react when they are pushed. And South Africa have just been bullying teams in this phase, and none of the teams seem to have an answer. Are you taking pace off? They tried taking pace off. Do you have the rapid pace? Do you have the bouncer? Do you have the variety of a Bumrah? I'm just thinking in this setup, I'm only thinking 2 bowlers who might have been able to stop them. I'm liking Shaheen Afridi with the old ball and Bumrah who's just the absolute master of his craft. I'm thinking, other than these two, who are the bowlers that you're backing to stop the South African side in this form? And I'm struggling to look beyond those two. And Bumrah especially, even Shaheen goes for runs at the end.
But do you all think that maybe Shakib got a few calls wrong, or it was just complete dominance by the bat?
I couldn't see there's very much you could see. Also, even he was trying to get that, dart that thing into your leg. The problem is that, he was seeing the ball so well at that time, Kock, that if he could get even a little bit, he was an inch short, he had the leverage to be able to hit it over his head for 6. So that's a problem, that where do you bowl in circumstances like that? And the problem is with somebody like a Kock, say, the side boundaries are his natural game. So you don't want to pitch it anywhere where he's going to go across, right? So your only hope is to try and tie him down, not to allow him to hit over your head. And he was hitting it over the head as well.
It reminds me a little bit of those National Geographic videos that you see where the cheetah's chasing the deer. And the deer chakmas 1, that's the dot ball. But you've got to chakma 6 times. And if you're late on 1, then you're gone. And that's exactly what is happening. If they're slightly off, the ball's going for 6. So a dot ball is a win. But how many dot balls can you string together? Because if you miss your length, if you're over by a little bit, even the low full toss with the positions they are in, they're hitting for 6s. And if you get a volley, it's just a free hit anyway.
Well, Joyda and Harsha, I'm always, I can say trolled that I get to ask you all so many questions. So we have to take a Cricbuzz live question because so many questions that come in. So I think today is a lucky day because we pick a Cricbuzz live question. Dipesh asks us, in only their 3rd World Cup, Afghanistan's success over teams like Pakistan, England is no longer considered an upset. Why have Bangladesh failed to achieve this consistency despite playing in the World Cup since 1999?
They've had a couple of good World Cups. They've had a couple of decent World Cups. How did they go in 2007 after they beat India? That was when they were coming together. They beat South Africa. They beat South Africa and India in 2007. And in 2015, they had a couple of, in 2019, they had a couple of good results.
3 wins.
The 3 wins in 2019. But by now, Bangladesh should have been stringing together more wins because they've been around. They first qualified for the World Cup back in 97. So that means they played the 99 World Cup. They've been around for long enough to have developed an infrastructure to be able to beat the stronger teams more often. Even 2019, they've beaten South Africa. They've beaten a West Indies team that started like a sprinter and ran out of steam very quickly in that World Cup. And then they beat Afghanistan. In 2015, they've beaten Afghanistan and Scotland. They're not beating the big teams enough. I think part of the reason is that because they play in certain conditions at home, they've become a side that can win only in those conditions. You constantly play to your strength. You never stretch your limits. You constantly play to your strengths, and your strengths become your limitation. It means you cannot win anywhere else. I thought that one big moment when I thought things would turn around was when they won a test match in New Zealand. And I thought that might be the beginning of this turnaround. But they've got to learn to win matches other than the 240, 250 sticky wickets that they play on.
It's surprising. You're absolutely right. Because Harsha, I totally agree with you because I feel that every Bangladesh board that comes in feels the pressure to get results immediately and therefore they play on the slow turners at home. But if you look at their team now, I really feel they actually have some fast bowlers. Okay, they have Taskin, they have Shariful who's promising, they have Mustafizur who was much better. Perhaps he's going through a bit of a slump in form, but they have 3-4 bowlers out there. And they have young batsmen like Litton, Mehdi, but that's somehow that next step just not happening for them.
I mean, the things you look for when Virat Kohli took one step up, around 2011-12, when Virat Kohli took that one step up, around 13-14, when Rohit Sharma took that one step up, they didn't take a step back.
True.
They then became a certain kind of player. Bumrah started 13. By 15-16, he took that one step up and he never took a step back. I'd like to see some of these Bangladesh players, once they take a step up, then they hit a different orbit. But they're not hitting that different orbit. They tend to play up to that level and then they drop back. And that is why it worries me that we are talking about consistency, but Shakib is coming to the end, Mushfiqur Rahim is coming to the end. Where are the replacements for them? That is where a Mehdi Hasan Miraj has to show that he can go to the next level, but we have not seen enough of that from Bangladesh talent.
Which is what we touched upon in the pre-match show as well, is that there's no one who's taken responsibility, the younger ones, because this team, I think, has 4 under-19 cricketers as well, but no one's become that big star player after like a Shakib.
Yeah, if you look at that, see, Tadzid, Tanzim, Taurid, and Shariful Islam.
All came out of under-19.
So all 4 of them came out of the under-19, and that was the under-19 that beat India in the finals, and there was a lot made of it. It was a very creditable victory, but that's what. Only Shariful is a regular. I think Tanzid had a very good innings the last time around, but perhaps they need, and my disappointment has been Taurid, who's been dropped today. I mean, he made way for Shakib, but he got the entire Asia Cup to show what he's capable of. He got many matches, 3-4 matches in this World Cup, just hasn't shown.
I'd like Tanzid to get a 70-80 today on this track. It's a track that will suit his kind of batting against quality bowling. Stand up and say, I'll get a 70-80 today against this bowling.
Well, we'll wait and watch because we always want younger players to come out and prove themselves. I wasn't around yesterday, but I want to take this opportunity to speak a little bit about somebody who we lost yesterday, one of India's finest, the world's finest spinners, Mr. Bishan Singh Bedi. It is a loss that is irreplaceable. Harsha, I've had the good fortune because he was in my film Ghumar and he came, we interacted with him. Haven't met anyone so lively, haven't met anyone who speaks as straight as him, but just a huge loss for India, for world cricket in general. You're
in the movies, you talk about romantic stars in the movies. There was no greater romantic in Indian cricket than Bishan Bedi. He loved cricket. He loved the contest between ball and bat. You see the old pictures where him and Prasanna are playing together. One gets a wicket, he runs to the other person. To them, how you get a wicket was almost more important sometimes than actually getting the wicket. And they thought about spin bowling so much and they backed themselves. Bishan Bedi told me a story once of bowling to the great Barry Richards at the prime of his form when they were playing county cricket. It was Northamptonshire playing against Hampshire. And he said, I set a slip and a silly point and left long off open. And people, he said, laughed at me and said, he'd make mincemeat of you. He said, I had a 6, I clapped. He had a second 6, I clapped because I was not bowling to Richards the batter. I was bowling to Richards' ego. And he said, sure as ever, third ball, his ego got the better of him and I got him out third ball. It was easy conceding 2 6s to get a player like Barry Richards out. They worked on the batter's ego as well. Sometimes I thought they were so obsessed with perfectionism that maybe it was like producing a product that didn't sell in the market sometimes. but he had a heart the size of this room and he was very encouraging. I was just going through some of the messages he sent me in 16-17 and he was so encouraging. Read Anil Kumble's tribute to Bishan Bedi, where he talks about this young kid who the captains had a go at him and he pulls the captain aside and says, that's not how you talk to young kids who are still learning the game. So a huge loss to Indian cricket. You talk to people like Murli Karthik, Rahul Sangvi, about how much time he spent with them. So I wish Neha and Angad the very, very best. He's got a daughter and a daughter-in-law called Neha, but I wish them the very best. But such a large-hearted man. And you can see that in the outpouring that's coming out.
Yes. In
the lives that he touched. And he's a fantastic man.
I just want to add to it because, we often talk about people knowing celebrities well or people who are already up or promising cricketers. And a friend of mine called Murtaza, and this is in the mid-80s, okay? He had a very promising player in his local Daudi Voda club who was playing well in Kolkata cricket. Left-arm spinner was getting nowhere. So he decides to find Bishan Singh Bedi's number somewhere. Those days, these are all not even mobile numbers. and waits till 10 because, you don't have money. In those days, STD rates used to go down at 10 and calls up Bishan Bedi. And Bishan Singh Bedi picks up the call, takes it, listens to him, speaks to him for 5 minutes and says, "Ise Delhi bhej do, hum dekh lenge." And finally, it doesn't work out. But can you imagine a stranger picking up a phone to one of India's greatest test player? At that point in time, he would have been the highest wicket taker for India. And him turning around and said, "Send him to me, I'll look after him." And this is a total nobody. It's just so close to me that what a big heart the man has. I mean,
It was a love affair with cricket that never died. It's a love affair with cricket that never died.
Well, the stories can go on and on because like both Joyda and Harsha are talking about how big his heart was. His stories will go on and on. His legacy will carry on because he's irreplaceable, but his legacy definitely will carry on. Coming back to the game today, South Africa come into bowl. Of course, they have this big target that they've put up. There's somebody who has been coming as the first change for South Africa, surprisingly, in this World Cup. But we spoke about Rabada and how he's now come to that stage where he comes as the first change. Is that what we can expect from Rabada today?
Maybe because they don't want to rock the boat, because when Ngidi comes back, they'll want to give him the new ball again. So it's a like-for-like change. I'll tell Williams, look, you go and play Ngidi's role. I haven't seen much of Lizard Williams, so I don't know if he's good enough to play that role, but that is what they will assign to him and say, you play that role, so that this is the role that Rabada has been given for this World Cup. So they won't mess around with Rabada and Kudzir and give Jansen the new ball. Maharaj bowls in the middle. I'll be just as interested in seeing how Bangladesh approach a target that by almost every metric seems unreachable for them. How do they show that we believe in ourselves enough to have a fair crack at this? And that is what I would like to see. That in English is called character. So I would like to see that on display when Bangladesh come out, because South Africa just have the attack for this track.
You know, Joyda, well, Rabada has taken wickets in every game that he's played, and he's taken key wickets. But Eric Simmons has spoken about how Rabada plays on the mind of an opposition, because the more an opponent team thinks and talks about a certain player, he's already playing on the mind, is what Eric Simmons had to say. So Rabada is one such player that plays on the mind of an opposition.
No, absolutely. And I think you look at it, he's just consistently got wickets. One of the things that some people have said, that is that a lot of the fast bowlers, the new ball, are getting too much swing, and controlling the swing is a bit difficult. So having Rabada there is, just when the ball is 2-3 overs old, is just giving him a little bit more control. But I think it's more than that. I feel Rabada can bowl with the new ball, with any ball. It is that Ngidi perhaps cannot bowl first change as well as Rabada can. And in that sense, it's a sacrifice for the greater good of the team. Sometimes you agree with it, sometimes you don't. I mean, if Lizard Williams, mind you, is no spring chicken. He's 30 years old. He's been around the system a long time. In fact, I have a lot of time for him, because he's a model, brought up by a single mother, went to school, went and finished college at the University of Western Cape, is doing a master's degree. So in his community, is regarded as somebody who has prioritized education as much as sport. Today will be his big chance to show what he can do in a World Cup.
Wish him well.
Big day.
Wish him well.
Well, we have to wish Bangladesh well as well, because Joyda, I know you had picked Litton Das yesterday as your player to watch out for. So he definitely is that key player, because they need a start. They need a very good start. They haven't been doing very well in the power play. Yes, their last game, finally they got the openers to get some runs, but Litton Das the key.
Look, 380 is far bigger than what, say, Afghanistan were chasing yesterday. But on that track, 280 was about something like maybe 320, 330 here. And I'd like to see Tanzid and Litton have the same approach that Ibrahim Zadran and Rahmanullah Gurbaz had yesterday, and say, right, we'll put on 100, 120. And then let's see how South Africa react. Let's try and put them under pressure. But they should back themselves to put on 100 runs and bat positively while doing it.
I mean, this is the time when I know you'll want to talk about how Master used to do it, because that's exactly it. You cannot look at it as a 50-over game from here, or 380 runs. It's way too much. It's way too much. Break it down, break it down, and you have a chance. Just look at phases of the game.
All right, so the most important thing, which is why we come to Cricbuzz Live for, is getting our predictions right. We go with the winner first. So please, the winner says it all.
In the power play?
Yes.
In the power play, I'm going 51.
A lot of confidence in the face there with the 51.
Are you going up or down? Up or down?
Okay, I think I'll go second because I was closest
Yeah,
to...
up or down?
I'll go with 51. We'll play like a team. I'll go with 65.
It'll be great fun to watch with 65.
Okay,
Good fun.
No,
yeah.
I'll stay at 40. It's okay.
Okay.
Okay. 40.
42, I think you should stick to your...
Okay, yeah, life, the universe,
summer.
everything. The
It's a good
answer to
summer.
everything is 42. Yes, good summer of 42 as well.
All right, so let's see if we can get the winning streak in the Cricbuzz Live studio going, because our comeback king has come back with a strong win and I hope he has a hat-trick today. We'll wait and watch, but don't forget to join us at the 15 over point at the Cricbuzz Combox. We'll see you there.